The British Columbia Institute of Technology acknowledges that our campuses are located on the unceded traditional territory.
Good afternoon. This is Eden Chipperfield reporting live for BCIT's The Crow, and here are your news headlines for 2:30. In an attempt to address health professional staffing shortages, the NDP government have begun a campaign to recruit nurses, doctors, and other healthcare workers for the United States. Premier David Eby and the Health Minister Josie Osborne made an announcement today that over 100 U.S. nurses are headed to BC to help alleviate the shortage of workers. According to Eby and Osborne, 113 nurses have received their registration. The program is to take advantage of the political storm occurring across the border. The early season melt experienced by British Columbia is causing concern for drought in the summer months. Weather forecasts from Environment Canada say that due to warmer climates experienced in April, there is no plentiful reservoir for hot weather, leading to an elevated risk of drought for the summer season. Through May may be wetter for northern BC. It will be a drier one for the lower mainland. As things begin to heat up in BC, the return of wildfire season is a consistent concern for communities. Reporter Avia Boulay covers the conversation.
Residents in Coquitlam and around the Tri-Cities have expressed their concern over the rise in risk of wildfires in BC during the peak summer heat. These risks rise with some residents living in urban interface zones that are in close proximity to forestry. Chris Fox, the Deputy Chief of Operations with the Coquitlam Fire Department, spoke about the precautions homeowners can take to increase their safety.
There's a bunch of fire smarting guides, especially from BC Wildfire, and it talked about how to prepare all these tactics and basically things you can do in your yard to make your house more and property more fire smart. Removing dead fuel, not storing wood under your deck, getting dry vegetation out and trimming everything down, keeping your lawn after night. So it all makes your house more resilient to catch on fire from a forest fire.
BC Wildfire has resources about fire safety. Avia Boulay, BCIT News.
I'm joined by reporter Avia Boulay live in the studio to learn more about the risks coming with a dry season. Avia, what are the preparations Tri-City firefighters are taking to ensure proper practice when fighting fires?
Yeah, of course. So local firefighters are actually working together alongside other organizations such as BC Wildfire and other organizations like that one in simulations to conquer wildfires. So they are putting on different things just in order to prepare themselves for when they have to fight these fires.
That's super interesting. Is there any higher risks for wildfires in the Tri-Cities?
Yes, of course. So there are areas in the Tri-Cities that aren't close to water. So that would be like Westwood Plateau. In areas that see more than 50% sunlight onto their homes are more at risk. So there are different things that people can do and different websites that people can check out for resources for that.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Avia. I appreciate what you have to say, especially regarding fire season's upcoming. Regarding the Alberta Human Rights Commission have referred to a lengthy discrimination case to a tribunal. Same-sex couple Paul Hemsing and Michael Gray alleged that the city of Medicine Hat in Alberta discriminated against them and their home hair salon business. The couple argue that other businesses did not have to follow imposed measurements, and they have begun continuously harassed by police because of the complaints from neighbors. The city, through legal representation, have denied discrimination and said the complaints were due to the number of vehicles that was dismissed by the commission director, but the acting chief has overturned the order so more evidence on the matter can be heard. Montreal are reporting an increase in tuberculosis cases in the city after a regional health report reported 203 new cases in 2024. This is a staggering rise from the average 123 cases per year over the last decade. Health officials in Montreal are calling for better access to care to tuberculosis due to the rise and urging the province of Quebec to develop programs to reach patients who may be facing significant barriers to healthcare access. 2 weeks after the election of Liberal leader Mark Carney, Canada will be looking towards his promise on a cabinet that focuses on the economy. Carney has already decreased his cabinet to 23 members from the former Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's that comprised of 40 individuals. Head of Policy of Business Council of Canada, Robert Ashelin, commented on the shuffle.
I think for energy and environment, those two portfolios, I think new faces are required, frankly, and people that will reset the tone and the relationships with provinces, but also with the energy sector, to be honest. So I think that's an important test for tomorrow.
When it comes to tariffs, all are affecting from groceries to materials and to now firefighting. Reporter Aiden Singh explains how helibucketing operations are feeling the hurt.
Helibucketing operators are feeling the sting of rising costs from tariffs. Specifically, Bambi buckets are made in Canada by a Canadian company, SEI Industries. For years, American vinyls and aluminum products were used to build these buckets. With the new tariffs driving up prices, industry experts expect SEI to diversify their supply chains. They claim that different suppliers are needed all over the industry as uncertainty over the U.S. political climate grows. Jason Simon of Emergeco Aerospace says that they're trying their best to keep prices low, which may include dipping into their margins. Still, operators will face higher maintenance costs this wildfire season. Aiden Singh, BCIT News.
In the studio live, I have reporter Aiden Singh, who's going to speak more about how helibucketing operations have been affected by the tariffs. So, Aiden, is there a solution to this current crisis we seem to be having?
Well, not exactly. Campbell Helicopters has been getting by being creative, buying whole machines, just using them for their parts and keeping them non-functional, but not precisely. Simmons also suggested an hours extension, allowing crews to work longer, generate more revenue.
Interesting. So, when we're purchasing these parts, why have they been suddenly changed? Is it because of the expense cost because of the tariffs, or is there another reason?
They're obviously bad because of the tariffs, but on top of that, things in this industry have been very tough since COVID. COVID was a real awful year for the wildfire industry, seeing as there was just no fires. Thus, a lot of crews weren't able to generate any revenue, and some of these smaller operations went out of business.
That's very interesting. Looks like COVID really did affect us after all. When it comes to the California governor, Gavin Newsom, he is urging states' local government to begin clearing homeless encampments. This response is due to California's effort to ban makeshift camps that have become frequented on the streets. A local law has been drafted for countries and cities to adopt or modify. Regarding the traditional Catholics and conservatives with the new pope, they're hopeful that Pope Leo XIV will return doctrinal rigor to papacy rather than the reformist agenda Pope Francis was criticized for pursuing. Cardinal Gerhard Mueller was fired by Pope Francis as the Vatican's doctoral chief, suggested that Pope Leo would restore access to Old Latin Mass that his predecessor had restricted. Final Destination Bloodlines has a special local connection. The filmer Zachary Lipovsky hails from Vancouver and looks forward to showing off his initiative, Thinking for the Film. Alongside being filmed in Vancouver, the Canadian connection is strong for this cult classic.
I saved a lot of lives that night.
Everyone needs to get off the dance floor!
Lives that were never meant to be saved. But Death doesn't like it when you mess with his plans.
This book, it will show you everything you need to know to keep our family safe.
It all started with Grandma. Death is coming for us because we were never supposed to exist.
Watch out!
Only by embracing death will it pass you by.
The series debuted into the year 2000 and has become a box office success, earning over $65 million US. The last installment was in 2011. For your weather update in Burnaby, it is currently 17 degrees and partly cloudy, with the high being 17. For those who may think sunscreen is optional, I do recommend wearing it to protect your skin. And for those who also may be interested in the upcoming sports, we do have a hockey game that is coming up tonight, essentially because of playoff season. These have been your top stories at 2:30 for BCIT's The Crow. I'm Eden Chipperfield.
Stay tuned for more on BCIT's 1680 The Crow.
Everything is changing to digital. Everything is online. People aren't just waiting for the 6 o'clock news anymore. People want their news right now. They want to be able to go onto their smartphone, onto the internet, and see the news that they want to see.
Vancouver is growing at, a really rapid rate, the Lower Mainland even, and with the tools that we're given here, we're able to cover all of that.
Welcome to BCIT Magazine. I'm Radhika Sikki-King.
In the program, they really leave it up to you. I mean, the help is there when you need it, figuring out how to use the programs like Premiere, Audition, and figuring out how to use the cameras. But it's up to you to sort of experiment and figure out what you can do when you go out in the field.
They brought candles and flowers to remember the student who lost her life yesterday.
Theresa May says the international community condemns Moscow.
They really make sure that you know the basics and you are able to put out a quality product.
I'm Brady Tretanero.
And I'm Radhika Sikki-King. Thank you for tuning in to BCIT Magazine.
I'm Caleb Templeton, and here are your 2:45 sports headlines. In local sports, the BC Lions have started their training camp in Kamloops today. The Lions' next game will be a preseason game when they take on the Calgary Stampeders in Langford. The Lions' regular season Week 1 game will take place on June 7th when they host the Edmonton Elks. The Vancouver Whitecaps have announced that they will play Valor FC to start the 2025 TELUS Canadian Championship. The first leg will take place on Tuesday, May 20th in Winnipeg, while the second leg will take place in Vancouver at BC Place on July 9th. The Whitecaps are the current reigning Canadian Championships champions, resulting in them receiving a Week 1 bye during the tournament's first week. The Canadian Championship final will take place in October. Now in hockey, as the NHL has 2 playoff games on the slate tonight. The Vegas Golden Knights will play the Edmonton Oilers in Edmonton. Edmonton currently leads the series 2-1 heading into Game 4. Stuart Skinner is starting in net for the Oilers tonight, as Calvin Pickard will continue to recover from his day-to-day injury. Skinner is yet to win a game in these playoffs, while Pickard is 6-0 in the playoffs for Edmonton. Now over to the Eastern Conference. The Carolina Hurricanes host the Washington Capitals for Game 4 of the series in Carolina. The Capitals' offense will look to bounce back after getting shut out by Carolina in Game 3. Currently, Carolina leads the series 2-1 over the Eastern Conference's number 1 seed Capitals. The IIHF Championship continued today. Team Canada got a day off after their win over Team Latvia on Sunday. In today's games, Austria beat Slovakia in a close 3-2 shootout game, while Team USA was upset by losing to Team Switzerland 3-0. Team Canada's next game will be against Team France. The NHL has suspended Toronto Maple Leafs forward Max Domi for a hit on Florida Panthers forward Alexander Barkov. The hit took place in the final minutes of the game, which resulted in a 2-0 win for Florida to even the series. Now over to basketball. The Minnesota Timberwolves will take on the Golden State Warriors later tonight in San Francisco. Minnesota currently has the 2-1 series lead over Golden State. Former NBA MVP and Warriors star point guard Steph Curry will be out for tonight's game with a hamstring injury. The New York Knicks are hosting the Boston Celtics for Game 4 of their best-of-7 series. The Knicks currently have the 2-1 series lead over the Celtics. Knicks all-star point guard Jalen Brunson is leading the NBA in points per game throughout the playoffs with 29.1. The NBA will announce the team that will win the first overall pick in the 2025 NBA Draft. The 5 main teams in contention for the first overall pick include the Utah Jazz, Washington Wizards, Charlotte Hornets, New Orleans Pelicans, and the Philadelphia 76ers. Naismith Trophy winner and Duke forward Cooper Flagg is the most likely first overall pick in the draft. Rutgers guards Ace Bailey and Dylan Harper are also projected top 3 picks in the 2025 NBA Draft. Now in baseball, as the Cleveland Guardians will host the Milwaukee Brewers in just over 30 minutes, while the Seattle Mariners will look to end their 3-game losing streak as they host the New York Yankees at 6:40 p.m. Other games around the MLB landscape that will start within the next hour include the Boston Celtics at the Detroit Tigers and the St. Louis Cardinals at the Philadelphia Phillies. Over to football, where the NFL has announced that the first game will take place for the 2025 season. The reigning Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles will host their arch-rival Dallas Cowboys to open up the campaign. The NFL has been running the tradition of having the reigning Super Bowl champion hosting the first game of the season since the 2020 season when the Kansas City Chiefs hosted the Houston Texans. Those have been your 240 sports headlines. Join back again at 3:15 for more news in the sports world. I'm your host, Caleb Templeton, and you're listening to BCIT's The Crow.
Stay tuned for more on BCIT's
everything is changing to digital. Everything is online. People aren't just waiting for the 6 o'clock news anymore. People want their news right now. They want to be able to go onto their smartphone, onto the internet, and see the news that they want to see.
Vancouver is growing at, a really rapid rate, the Lower Mainland even, and with the tools that we're given here, we're able to cover all of that.
Welcome to BCIT Magazine. I'm Radhika King.
In the program, they really leave it up to you. I mean, the help is there when you need it, figuring out how to use the programs like Premiere, Audition, and figuring out how to use the cameras. But it's up to you to sort of experiment and figure out what you can do when you go out in the field.
They brought candles and flowers to remember the student who lost her life yesterday.
Theresa May says the international community condemns Moscow.
They really make sure that you know the basics and you are able to put out a quality product.
I'm Brady Tretanero.
And I'm Radhika King. Thank you for tuning in to BCIT Magazine.